All right. Yes, people. What is up, everyone? How is everyone doing? Let me see. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're from. Andre, love to see it. Ahmed, love to see it, my friend. Love it. Love it. Let me see. From Thailand. Wow. Hello, I made $700 after 1 week learning from this channel. Wow. That's insane, my friend. That is all your credit, of course. That's all you. Let me check something. Yes, perfect. All right. So, yes, let me see. You got my masterclass for free. I doubt that, my friend. I doubt that. Let me see. Good evening, Valentino. Good evening. Simple question about raw materials. Crude oil, gold. Are the kill zones the same as Forex, or should we rely on those of the indices, which are a little different? Yeah, it's a good question. And in that sense, I would more so rely on indices and a little bit of Forex kill zone, but not really the London kill zone, more so the New York kill zones. So it relies a little bit more later on the day, on the day, if that makes sense. And let me see. I discovered your channel just yesterday. Helped me a lot. Love that, Bantu. Love that. What's up, Emrich? How you doing? Great to see you again. Dankzij je laatste forecast en je vorige video heb ik vrijdag op 1 dag een funded account gewonnen. Wow. Koen just... Wow, that's crazy, Koen. That's crazy. Due to your last forecast and your previous video on Friday, in 1 day, I won a funded account. That is insane. Here, I drop you 2 emails with regard to the masterclass, but now the enrollments are closed. Can you maybe get back to me? I will get back to you. Excuse me for the delay. It's truly, my emails truly is a horrible place to be. I'm saying it's very overwhelming for me. So that's also why I'm looking for someone to help me out with that. So soon. I'll get to you as soon as possible, my friend. You've changed my trading career. It feels like you were the last piece to my puzzle. Love that. Absolutely love that, Faris. Thank you for that. Thank you. And again, if you succeed... Hey, Eric, what's up, man? How you doing? Love to see it. Which is your broker name, please? My broker name depends on which account I'm using, but overall, I stick to IC Markets. Let me see. And that's, again, Faris, that's all you, man. And even Koen, whoever passed their funded, who made money, the person who made money, $700 after 1 week of learning from this channel, it's all credit to you. You are all putting in the work. It's just me telling you something and you put in the work. If it wasn't for you, it would have never happened. I was down 8% and now I'm up 3% from this channel. Wow, that's insane. That's actually insane. I bought the MMT Essential package, but the Notion links wasn't working for me. Should I email you? Which email, the course one or the main one? Aha, okay. Yeah, send me an email. Let me go over that as well. Let me set a reminder, actually, really quick for that. Because that is not good, of course. Let me check. Notion link. Good that you mentioned that, my friend. Thank you for that. All right, perfect. Yes. I'll go over that after the stream. Let me see. My win rate has increased. Love to see it. Buenos dias from Puerto Rico. Love to see it. 1.5 and plus after 2 weeks. Thanks, Ari. Wow. It's pretty overwhelming, though. It's pretty crazy to me. I don't know. It's pretty crazy. I sound a little bit silent, but I'm almost speechless. It's like, what? Like, what happened all of a sudden? From Paris. Wow, you are the best. You are great. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Wow. It's wow. It's crazy. I feel like I'm in your masterclass just by watching your videos. Yeah, exactly. It's like the free YouTube videos, believe me, it's insane. And by the way, because I've gotten some messages as well about potential scammers and people saying they have the material, the course material or something. There is not one single thing out there that has the course material beside the own masterclass or the own essential. There's nothing else besides that. So if someone is telling you, hey, you can get this for that, for that, they're scamming you. They are scamming you, and that is not the full material or not even the true material at all. So please, please, please do not fall for that. So if you do not have the capacity to go for that, then please just stick to the free YouTube, because otherwise it can be very confusing and it's just going to be detrimental to your own learning curve. That's very important to understand as well. So because I saw as well, someone mentioned they had the free material from the masterclass. That's just impossible. That's not out there. And that's just not going to happen. So if someone messages you, then it's likely a scam. Just for your heads up. Hi from the Netherlands. Oh, I had some yesterday. I was like a little bit homesick. I was like, oh, I really love, like, for me, I love Christmas, and I love the what is it? I love the whole vibe of Christmas and the snow and stuff. And wow. Of course, you don't really have that in Colombia. Hey, reageer op DM's. Do you respond to DM's? Can I private or business send you DM? Yeah, you can, but I don't really respond to DMs currently. So I respond to my email most of the time, which also is a little bit on hold currently. So because I'm mainly focusing on this current enrollment as well. So it's yeah, you can DM me. I will respond maybe soon, if that makes sense. But the best way is to email me, which is on the, what is it? Which is on the WAP website as well. Let me see. Yeah, exactly, Roman Turlak. That's also my thoughts. Since ICT left, is yeah, that's true. That is very true. That is very, very true. You're the best audio prices. Wow, man. Thank you. It's insane. 300 people on a Sunday afternoon. On a Sunday morning somewhere even, or maybe even some Sunday night. It's crazy. It's crazy. All right, good morning. If possible, could you comment on your mentoring difference between the essential and the masterclass plans, whether the classes are recorded and live? I live in Brazil, for sure. So since as well, I have not been able to, yeah, let me touch on this first. So, sir, do you know that your course got leaked? Yes. So it did not get leaked, and that is just not the course. So that is what I mentioned with a little bit earlier. If someone is trying to sell you that or is trying to recommend you that, that is not the material. So please, if you think that is the material, then that is not the material. And if you're in the money making team, then you know that is not the material as well. So yeah, it's a waste of your time, and it's a waste of your money, even if they ask you for money. So I would then advise to just stick to the free YouTube. So let me see. What was the... Yeah, so since I have not been able to answer all my emails just yet, let me go over a lot of the questions that I get through my emails. And that is the difference between the essential and the masterclass as well. And what you can actually expect and how it works, essentially. So first off, how the mentorship in a general rule of thumb works is that the structure is way different from the YouTube. So we work with enrollments, which means also that every new enrollment, so the current enrollment, is nowhere to be seen. The information that is in there is nowhere to be found. It's completely new information. Now, as well, new information with, I don't throw new concepts at you. That is something that is at the core base, at the core foundation, the philosophy of the mentorship, that I don't throw new concepts at you. But everything becomes even more clear. So currently we have already had 6 enrollments. 6 enrollments with a lot of value, with a lot of crazy information. that will help you to get to a profitable stage. With every, it's like a story. I refer to it as a story. With every video you watch, you get closer to an understanding where there's no confusion, where you get to a profitable stage, which on the YouTube doesn't have that structure, as in every video you watch, you get closer to the understanding. Yes, it works like that on YouTube, but in the masterclass and the essentials, it's even better than that. And certain concepts like order flow, like market structure is not something I touch on in YouTube as well. Market structure, yes, but the full details, etc. Moi. Then the next part is the difference between the essentials and the masterclass is that the essential is without support. So it's without support from my side. Yes, of course, video support, but the full support where you have Discord, where you have private support, where you can ask me things in private is the masterclass. That's also why the masterclass is a little bit more exclusive, because I want to be the mentor. I want to be able to help people, because if someone else answers my questions that I get, then it can be very confusing for people because they might have a little bit of a different opinion. So that is why it is very important that I am the sole mentor as well currently. And that is also why we've seen the success, I believe. So that is the main difference. Next to that, there's a few content that you don't get, but that's all extra. The main videos that you need for the mentorship, etc., those are both in essentials and the masterclass. So you're not missing out on anything in the masterclass, except for the support, a funded guide, a champion mindset, a few sheets. The Discord has extra videos maybe overall because they have questions, so I answer with videos as well usually. But overall, if you want the full understanding of what I'm doing, etc., then the essentials is enough. So some people even like being alone and studying alone. Then I would highly advise just go for the essentials, because everything is already clear inside the essentials. I will send you my first funded certificate soon. Love that, love that. Let me know if that makes sense as well on the material and what you can expect. So learning from YouTube isn't enough. It's more than enough learning from YouTube. But the thing is that learning from YouTube is more than enough. The only thing is that what is it? Let me see. It's more than enough. The only thing is that I can't get to my words. The only thing is that it requires more time on your side, as in the figuring out part, how it's actually structured, requires a little bit more on more from your time. But overall, more than enough. Absolutely more than enough, for sure. Learn directly from ICT. It's his concept. It's not his concept. That's funny, because if you say that to me, then you truly have not watched my videos and you truly do not understand what I am saying. Because the things I teach in the mentorship is not ICT his material. Let me make that very, very clear. It's not. The things I have learned as the basics is from ICT himself. The things that I teach in the mentorship, order flow, the way I interpret market structure, candle signs, is not from ICT himself. It's through my own studies. That's very, very important to understand. Yeah, the mentorship gives you more guidance. Learning from YouTube is very good. The mentorship is just more so the guide. Indeed, exactly. Yeah. Well said, well said. Yes, exactly. The flood and the lot is also not from ICT. And again, that doesn't mean that I'm not crediting ICT, right? I credit ICT for the basic knowledge, but after that, I did my own studying. And that is how I gained the concept. That is how I gained my knowledge. So to say that study ICT because it's his concept, that's simply not true. And again, if you want to do that, then be my guest. I'm not forcing anyone to do anything here. For the masterclass, what's the main difference between lifetime and monthly? Thank you. So for the monthly and the monthly and the lifetime is that the lifetime is well, obviously lifetime, so it's a one-time payment. The monthly is a monthly subscription, and with the monthly, you well, you are more susceptible to price increases if that happens. And the lifetime, you have just paid one time, and you're in there forever. The tools are those of ICT, but the concept and the reading behind it is directly done by Ariel, correct? Yes, and yes. Sort of, yes. The basic concepts are by ICT himself. And if you want to get really deep into that, then is it even by ICT himself? I'm not sure. But again, that is a whole nother discussion. Since we are approaching the end of the year, do you advise stopping trading? If yes, then when? Well, it really depends on what the market is doing, how the market is behaving. If the market is telling us, all right, this is not really clean, as in it's just not really looking good, it's not following through overall, then yes, you don't really want to get involved anymore. All right, perfect. Making money is all that matters, not who claims the copyright. Yeah, exactly. Like, who is the owner of what? It doesn't really make sense to me, because the market has always been there. ICT probably got inspiration from others as well. He didn't get it through a magical something. So it's like, doesn't make a lot of sense to me. When will the weekly forecast start? Right now. All right, I got a little bit distracted right here, but let's go over it. Let's go over it. Yes, perfect. So first of all, let's go over the dollar right here. So if we take a look at the dollar, then we are seeing, and what I wanted to take into account as well is the weekly time frame, because the weekly time frame right here has a weekly fair value gap in the making. Now, will we trade into that weekly fair value gap right there? I'm not too certain, because we are, of course, continuing lower. Now, the possibility is there, and if we trade into it, that is definitely a higher probability, because again, then we have all the fair value gaps in context. There's no reason to come back higher than anymore, so that is very nice. Now, it would be very important to now read the fair value gaps on the lower time frame. With the lower time frame, I'm indicating here the daily time frame, the 4-hour time frame, etc. Because the daily time frame right here has this fair value gap right there, potentially in the making. So after Monday right there, if we have that daily fair value gap lower, then we might already continue lower off of that. So how do you approach that? Well, you can definitely look to take a trade off of that daily fair value gap lower. The only thing is that we might, if we do not follow through on that first daily fair value gap right there, then I would say, all right, let's wait a little bit and let's wait for the weekly fair value gap overall. So right here, if we create this weekly or this daily fair value gap, sorry, then that is very important, because that is an indication that we now potentially already want to continue lower without coming into that weekly fair value gap. Then after we reach this low right there, that is why this is important right now, is because after we reach this low with already daily fair value gap, then after we might come into the weekly value gap to then continue lower potentially. So that is how I view that right there. If we create this daily fair value gap already, I would already be interested in shorts right there. Only if we create that daily fair value gap. If not, then I'm waiting. Then I'm on the sidelines. So with that in mind, if we then take a look at ES, NASDAQ, the indices, YM overall, of course, here I'm just very much bullish still. This can also still come into the weekly fair value gap. NASDAQ is looking quite nice to potentially come into the weekly fair value gap right there to then continue higher. That could be very, very nice right there. Then on YM, YM is pretty far away from the weekly fair value gap. So I would not really expect a move into the weekly fair value gap. If it happens, again, be my guest, then I'm still very much interested in longs. But even a daily fair value gap's higher right there, that could be very nice as well. Then on ES is the same exact thing right here, where we can potentially come into the weekly value gap, but overall, if we already expand higher, then it also depends on what the dollar wants to do. As in, if the dollar wants to also come into the weekly value gap, then yes, ES, Nasdaq, YM have a higher chance of coming into the weekly value gap as well. But overall, we can definitely look to potentially already continue higher right there, even though we don't really have a daily fair value gap higher. So then I would want a new clear discount array higher, which is just a daily fair value gap, 4 hour fair value gaps higher, something along the lines of that. Then on DAX, same exact thing where we just have this target right now. Very clear target, and overall the same exact philosophy, same exact theory that we have right there, with this being the target right there. Very, very, very clear draw on liquidity. And after that, we can potentially look to continue higher as well. Then Australian dollar, US dollar. Now, we had this daily fair value gap. Let's first zoom out to the weekly actually. We are potentially creating a weekly fair value gap after next week. So right here, we have this daily fair value gap that we pushed higher from overall. And then after, we are not really, well, potentially we are creating a new daily fair value gap higher right there. If we do that, then I would definitely be interested in getting involved in that. If we don't do that, and we have a 4 hour fair value gap sitting right there, then that's also fine for me. So if that happens, then again, that's also fine for me right there for potentially higher prices off of this. Again, depends on what the dollar wants to do right there with that daily fair value gap that is potentially in the making. If that gets created, then I'm very interested for sure. So EU is the same exact story where just these highs right now, they are going most likely. And if that happens, then afterwards we can just look to continue higher as well, taking into account the same thing as on the dollar, that we are creating a weekly fair value gap. So the way I mean that is, if you need to take that into account, then taking that into account means that if it doesn't follow through on the daily fair value gap, doesn't follow through on 4 hour fair value gaps, and it wants to continue lower, as in it's showing signs that the bullish fair value gaps right here are not really that strong, then of course, those are signs that we first want to come into the weekly fair value gap to then continue higher. So that is again paying attention to the fair value gaps on the time frame below the weekly time frame. So that is important to understand as well. So if that happens and we do not create daily fair value gaps here, we do not create 4 hour fair value gaps here, they don't hold right here, and we're just disrespecting everything, and we're doing something like this, then I would say, all right, I want to wait for the weekly fair value gap to then continue higher. So that is quite important. Now, the next step is GU, and GU is the same thing, but this is where, again, the difference is, because I'm not sure if I mentioned this in the video. I think I did. I believe I did. I'm not sure, actually. On EU, right here, the chances of trading into this weekly fair value gap are higher than on GU. Why is that? Simply looking at the form of this candle. This candle is pretty small, right, compared to GU. I think I mentioned it in the previous forecast or the previous Tuesday live stream, where this candle is pretty big. It's a pretty big candle, right? So overall, would you expect this next week to come into that to continue higher? No, it's too far of a retracement to then continue higher right there. So GU might not even come into or close to that weekly fair value gap. So if we create daily fair value gaps already higher here, then I would more so be interested in those than in a retracement all the way into that weekly fair value gap to then continue higher. Now, if we don't retrace into that weekly fair value gap maybe next week or the week after that, and we still come into it, then I would say, all right, perfect. I'm still bullish overall, but I'm not expecting that currently. So with the not expecting that, what I'm trying to tell you right there is that I would rather want to trade off a daily fair value gap higher than waiting for that weekly fair value gap. Where certain pairs here, for example, Nasdaq, I would rather wait for the weekly fair value gap instead of trading off of a daily fair value gap right there. I deem that as higher probability currently. Whereas GU, I would say higher probability is currently the daily fair value gaps right there to continue higher off of that, or even the 4 hour, etc. Whatever retracement we can get. So that is how I view that. That is what I will be interested in potentially. New Zealand dollar, US dollar. So right here, we can also see that we are just continuing higher. We now had the expansion phase of the potential fair value gap, which is also interesting, which leads me to the next point again. If we are reading the fair value gaps and we truly want to create a fair value gap higher, because obviously we are coming off of this previous fair value gap right there. We're coming off this previous fair value gap. And then the next fair value gap should be created as well, right? Because that is how it works. That is what we talk about in the high probability lags. If there's a fair value gap, old fair value gap, then of that fair value gap, we want to create a new fair value gap. Now, in the mentorship, and why I'm almost struggling over my words is because it has a specific name. But right there, the way we view that is, again, we want to create a new fair value gap. So the only way we can create a new fair value gap is if we stay above this line right there, which is that high, that week's high that is sitting right there. So meaning that it should not have a very big retracement. And this lines up nicely with, if we create a daily fair value gap right here, then the daily fair value gap should not have a sting into the low of the daily fair value gap. So any daily fair value gap that gets created right there should be very nice to potentially trade off of. So also here, you would not really expect a bigger retracement into the order block right there to continue higher, because that overall ruins the whole bullish intention of the weekly. Again, we can't say that then it won't continue higher anymore. No, that's not the reasoning, as in then trading would be very easy. But that is the probability. So we need to understand those probabilities that are in play. So that is very important. So right here, the highest probability price action for us and for in the long term as well is if we create this daily value gap, sting into it and already continue higher. And then maybe next week or whatever it is, come into the weekly value gap to then continue higher right there. So that is how I would look at New Zealand dollar, US dollar. It's quite nice actually, quite nice. USD Canadian dollar, let's see. So we still have the weekly fair value gap right there as a potential target. Overall, the delivery on US dollar, I'm not sure if I was the only one. I just had quite a difficulty reading it. Difficult reading it. It was just not that clean. The only trade I took this week was a loss. So for me, it was just really not that clean. And overall, not a shame. The read, the draw liquidity was nice, but the delivery there was just not really that great. And that's also an indication. What I wanted to mention is that if that happens very often, then you might want to consider not trading December, because that is or could be a December characteristic. Now, to say that that will 100% happen ahead of December, it's not something we can confidently say. But if that happens quite often, then we might say, all right, let's try to avoid trades in December, or we say, all right, we drop our risk. So that is very important, how you approach that. Also with the question regarding, would you trade the end of the year, etc. So here, again, we can see the same thing on the weekly, where ideally we don't want to see price come back above that or even touch it right there, because that prevents that weekly value gap lower to be created. So right here, we are creating a daily value gap as well. Now, the odds of this coming into this weekly low right there, into that weekly value gap high potentially, are pretty high, because overall the price action here was just not really clean. We had this daily value gap, did not create a daily value gap lower off of that. I do still think we can deliver lower, but here, if I compare this to GU, for example, where the delivery is just way nicer, way smoother, then I would love to trade GU over USD Canadian dollar, because here I might take 2 hits before I take a 1 to 2 RR winner, which leaves me at break even. On GU, I might take a winner before I even get close to a loss. So that leaves me at 2 RR in profit. So that is how I view that, right? That is how you compare that high probability. Because right here, it's very simple analogy, but it's often very overlooked, is that you want to take the least amount of hits before you take a winner. And I discussed this yesterday, I believe, in a breakdown video on the mentorship, where if you're taking, yes, everybody can take a winner. Everyone can take a winner. Like, it's not that hard. If you just try over and over and over, you're going to take a winner eventually. But if you take 8 losses before you take a 1 to 2 R winner, then obviously you're very unprofitable, and it's not that fascinating. It's not that amazing to do. It's not that impressive to do in that sense. So the impressive part is, all right, how consistently can you take 0 losses before you take that winner? And that purely comes down to understanding and being very picky about your price action. Now, if you're in a mentorship, you know how extremely picky I am about my price action. If price action shows one weird argument of potentially being bullish whilst I'm looking at bearish price action, then I don't want to trade it. And that is me being picky, but overall, that is me preventing losses before I take my first winner. I don't want to take 2 losses before I take the winner, because then I've worked for nothing. I'm just a break-even trader. What have I done? I've done nothing. So that is very important to understand as well. So this is overall what I'm looking at. Daily, 4-hour gaps, lower, etc. Could be interesting, but I prefer GU, EU, etc. Even New Zealand dollar, US dollar right there looks better to me than this one. USD-CHF. Well, do we really have to discuss this? Overall here, we have the weekly value gap. So yes, let me actually discuss it. If we come into this weekly value gap right there, I would love to get involved on potentially lower prices. That is looking very nice actually, and I would love to. On the daily time frame, I do not want to do anything. So if anything, I'm going to set my alert right here at the beginning of the week, and I'm going to wait for it to come into the weekly value gap. If it doesn't, perfectly fine. If it does, all right, I'll look for my entry pattern, and that's it. So the entry pattern on a weekly basis is as well, you can either wait for 4-hour value gaps lower as well, just to get involved on the 5-minute off of those 4-hour value gaps, or you can even take a 1-hour trade. It depends on what your preference is right there as well. But could be nice. US dollar JPY right here. Now, this is again, it's not really something I'm interested in overall, and it's just very weird price action. It can still deliver. Now, this might be a broker thing. And the reason why I say that is because if this already took out that high on a different broker and this is why I like CME price action on the indices a lot, because it's official, quote unquote, official price action, where this is someone's broker. So the broker right here might not take out that high, but on official, quote unquote, official price action, it took out that high. So right there, it's a little bit more difficult to navigate that price action, where it's like, okay, do we still want to look for longs? Because that changes the whole context, right? If this was indices and we didn't take out that high just yet, I would say, all right, I'm full margin taking longs here. But if we did take out that high, then I'm like, I don't really want to look for longs, because then this would be a sweep. So overall, this is not really something I want to get involved in, because purely based off of that confusion right there, which is not that clear. If I was looking at anything, then we have bearish value gaps. This bearish value gap got overtaken by a bullish value gap. Now, the only reason why I would say right here is that we're still bearish is because of the dollar. That's the only reason. Overall, I do still think that this can deliver higher, which then leads me to, what is that? A 50-50 bias, which I'm just super unclear about on what it wants to do. So I do not want to get close to USD-JPY this week, because it's very, very 50-50 right here. All right, silver. So silver was quite nice, but at least the delivery, the drawn liquidity was nice. The delivery was not super clean, and the delivery was quite messy. What we got right there was just not nice at all. Overall, we can now just look to continue higher as well, with the same premise that we are creating a daily value gap right there, with just the next targets being created as well. Right there, and eventually the highs that are above as well. Daily value gap higher could be very, very interesting here on silver. It's looking very nice. Then that's the same for gold, where gold, I mentioned during the Tuesday forecast or during the Tuesday live stream that I would like to see this high go right there before we actually create a daily value gap, which we did not do. So I was wrong on that sense. But right there, I would still want to see these highs go. Now, can it be a daily value gap that pushes higher? Can also be a 4-hour value gap that pushes higher right here. So a discount array, that is something I would like to get involved in. Now, this discount array that is sitting right there, this fair value gap, it's a little bit low. It's a little bit on the lower side for me to get involved, especially after it's now trying to create what? is trying to create a new daily value gap higher. So to ignore that and go into that daily value gap to then continue higher doesn't make any sense to me. That doesn't make any logical sense to me. We're already close to drawn liquidity. We're trying to create a new daily value gap higher as well. Doesn't make sense to retrace into this daily value gap to then continue higher. So if anything, all this in this candle is protected to me. So I want to get involved on a discount array that is sitting in this close proximity. Right here, somewhere along the lines of that. That would be my instant. After we take out those highs, then again, daily value gap overlapping with the highs could be very interesting. All right, then Bitcoin. Bitcoin is the same position as it had a few weeks ago. And this is why I don't really like analyzing Bitcoin, because it's just such a mess. It's just very unclear on what it wants to do. There's no fair value gaps to work with. It's just moving for 1 day or 1 week, and then it's just consolidating. Besides that, though, if we do want to see higher prices, then again, I want to see higher prices off of a fair value gap and create a new fair value gap. Where I mentioned on the weekly, we can definitely look to potentially do something like this still to continue higher. Even if we create something on a monthly eventually, then we can, of course, look at that monthly fair value gap right there to continue higher potentially. So that could be quite interesting, but that just takes time still. In the meantime, I want to stay out of Bitcoin. If I trade Bitcoin, it's usually long term, as in it's usually a swing trade or something, position trade. But right here, I've not really gotten involved in Bitcoin, just not really interested in it. And if anything, then again, daily value gap higher or lower could be quite interesting, but currently time will tell. All right, crude oil. So crude oil, I really liked, and I really liked the delivery as well. We had this fair value gap sitting right there, the monthly fair value gap. Then on the daily, we swept this low right there, and we had a beautiful rejection higher. We got this ST right there, and we just had this wick. So on the 1 hour, once I was looking at this price action, I was potentially looking to get involved right there, and we just had a huge downfall. As in, nothing happened, no confirmation or anything. We just had a huge downfall. After this huge spike up, and then I just wasn't interested anymore. After this huge move lower, I was just not interested anymore. That's not high probability in my eyes. As well, based on the video we had yesterday, of course, with the liquidity theory, the fair value theory, etc., the rebalancing, it just wasn't really nice in my eyes anymore. So right here, I also did not want to get involved anymore. If anything, right now, I want to wait for either daily value gap higher, daily value gap lower, just to get a clear indication again on what it potentially wants to do. Other than that, not really interested in this right now. All right, Nifty. So Nifty has not been moving a lot last week. Not sure if that's because of something in India or anything. But right here, if we do take a look at this price action, we have created this weekly fair value gap that is sitting right there. So we reached the first target. Now, can we reach this target? And then, again, that's the bias, right? Target was the narrative. Where are we going higher from? So we have this breaker overlapping with this fair value gap. If we want to continue higher, then we definitely are going to continue higher off of this right there, which could be very, very interesting as well. So then, again, in that weekly value gap, 4 hour, 1 hour confirmation to look to continue higher could be very, very nice. All right, if you have anything for me to take a look at, then please do let me know. Please let me know. Some of the crosses, maybe. Some of the crosses. Seek liquidity, seek fair value. That's a very good general rule of thumb. I like that, Sluggy. That's a good one. It's a very good one. It's a very good one. When you have a breaker / mitigation block that has an order block mixed in with the pattern, which array do you honor more? Yeah, it's a great question, by the way. That's a great question. And I think we saw one this week. There was an example this week, but I can't remember which one it was. There was a great example. So for example, if you have a breaker block like this, then sometimes there's an order block nested in there, as in on the right side of the chart. So on the lower time frame, maybe on the 4 hour, there could be an order block right there nested inside that bigger breaker block. And then you also have the fair value gap. Now, depending on where the fair value gap is located, if the fair value gap is below it right there, then I would say, all right, I'm not really interested in this 4 hour order block because I'm more so interested in the fair value gap. But sometimes you also have price action where the fair value gap is above it. So then you have the breaker block or mitigation block, order block, and the fair value gap above it. That is extremely high probability, and that is the that is probably one of the nicest price action you can get, because that is 3 PD raised, 3 discount raised that we can move higher from. So yes, I do look at that as well sometimes. That is very nice. That is very nice. Nvidia. Ooh, Nvidia. Let me see. I first was confused at the question. I was like, Nvidia, what do you mean? And I was like, yeah, of course, the stock. Let me look at the monthly. Oof. Monthly sweeping this. Oh, this is potentially nice price action. Now, I'm not sure if you're in the Nvidia stock, because then you're not really going to like what I'm going to say, but I do like this price action. The reason I like this is because this is a typical fake top right there. And again, don't force a fake top, like we've also mentioned. Don't force a fake top, but that is a nice fake top. And the reason that's a fake top is because now we are also not really continuing higher off of a clear discount rate from what I can see here. Yes, this swing low, but didn't come into a fair value gap or even the overlapping part right here. So right now, the first target for me would already be this fair value gap and that potential overlapping part right there. So here, if we take a look at the weekly, then the weekly fair value gap right here is the last line of defense. Meaning that if this weekly fair value gap does not want to push price higher, then we are heading towards that month fair value gap. That is my that is how I would see that. That is what I believe in that sense. So right here, we need to read whatever this weekly fair value gap is telling us. Because if we are continuing higher, then we are continuing higher off this weekly fair value gap right there. So let's see. We came into it right there on the daily time frame. So if the only chance, the thing I mentioned as well is if we come into something, and I believe I mentioned that in the YouTube video from yesterday, is that if we come into a fair value gap late during the day, late during a candle or whatever, then the previous candle sweep, previous candle low sweep is not that crazy. As in right here, we can definitely look at a previous week low sweep. That would be sort of the last line of where price can continue higher from. So if we want to continue higher, then we will continue higher, likely off of something like that. If that doesn't happen and we follow through on these bearish fair value gaps, we create more bearish fair value gaps, then the target for me is this monthly low, first of this monthly low, after this monthly fair value gaps right there. Let me see, Euro Australian dollar. For sure, my friend. Let me see. Monthly is quite ugly. Not really clean. Last thing we did was coming off of this monthly fair value gap. Did not create a new monthly fair value gap off of that. Then my chart is also really ugly, as in it's very, very cluttered with things. Weekly, not clear on the weekly. It's already what I don't really like is when I don't really have anything clear on the monthly, on the weekly, not even to clearly target, as in there's just not really a clear fair value gap to target. Then I need to force something on the daily, which I don't really like myself. Then even on the daily, it's just not really clear. Even on the daily, it's very ugly. We're not creating bearish fair value gaps overall, so that's the only bullish argument I could get to, as in, all right, we are creating bullish arguments, but we already came into this fair value gap right there with this potential breaker right there. So that is, again, same story where this tried to push higher already, failed to do so. So there's another bearish argument. So the only draw on liquidity that I can see currently is this fair value gap right there. It's the only draw on liquidity currently. On the 4 hour, wow, you gave me one pair to analyze it. This is what is this? All right, this is definitely something I would not trade. But if we get magically from Santa or something, we get nice price action towards that drawn liquidity, then and with nice price action just mean a fair value gap lower right there to then do something like this, then that could be nice. But that is me asking a lot off of this, because this is very ugly price action overall, and I would really not want to get involved here currently myself. GJ. Yeah. Yes, Nikolai. GJ was very nice this week. It was beautiful. It was probably the highest probability pair as well to trade this week. It was very nice. It was extremely nice. So overall, we are coming off of the weekly fair value gap right there. And then we have the daily fair value gaps right now that we can potentially look to follow through on as well, overlapping with these highs. So any fair value gap, this expansion phase of the fair value gap right there, that is going to create a new candle. If this high is overlapping with the fair value gap, then take that high. If this high is overlapping with the fair value gap, then take that high. So if, getting a notification. All right, perfect. So if whatever high is overlapping with the fair value gap right there, that is where I would look to potentially get involved again, because that is quite nice. Definitely looking nice. The only thing is that after a few context is taken, then you want to take a step back as well, because the reason behind that is because after we take context and weekly context hold, daily context holds, etc., then we are of course also creating monthly context after that. So the next monthly candle, which is after this week, then we might see some more consolidation there instead of expanding higher. It's definitely something to take into account. Overall, it's very nice price action. Very, very nice. I've gone from -8%. Wait, where is it? Where is it? No, yeah. I've gone from -8% to -2.5% this week because of you. You're my last bet, bro. It's been 3 years of losing money. Can't do it anymore. My man, that is insane. And that is all you, brother. That is all you. That's all your hard work. If you stick to it, then believe me, only time is holding you back. It's also what I say. It's what I say to mentorship students a lot of the time, is that if you just stick to what I'm teaching here and stick to the YouTube, even stick to the free YouTube, then the only thing holding you back is time. That's the only thing holding you back. And again, that's also not getting distracted by other mentors. And again, that leads me to the point which we talked about in the beginning. If you don't want to listen to me and you want to listen to ICT because you think it's ICT material, then who am I to stop you? Please go ahead and only listen to ICT. But then again, I would give you the same advice. Only listen to ICT and don't get distracted by my concept. But if you listen to my concept, then don't get distracted by someone else's concept. That makes sense. But it's just, feel free to do whatever you like. But I love that, man. That's insane, Dilshak. That is insane. And that's all your credit. It's all your credit, brother. All your credit. What do you think about this Monday? Let me see, WWE. Maybe we get some WWE price action. Let me see. Euro, US dollar, Australian dollar. Okay. That's not too bad. That's not too bad, actually. That is quite tradable already. So if you have, and this is again, the things we went over right here on price action by looking at the daily values potentially, etc. All that was on price action stays the same. The only thing you would do right now is look, all right, do we already have a daily value gap on a certain pair, on a cross pair, or whatever it is? Can we already look to potentially trade that on a Monday? That is how you look at that time factor then. So if you have something on Euro, US dollar, Australian dollar pairs, then that is something you can already look to trade on Monday potentially. But for example, what is it? New Zealand dollar, US dollar, where we were waiting for a daily value gap higher. This is not something I would trade then because I'm just waiting for first that price to agree. That makes sense. Go over the loss. Yes, let me do that first before I go over other pairs as well. Let me see. Has a 2 weekly fair value gap? 2 weekly fair. Yeah, I went over that, no? Or do you mean the 2 weekly time frame? I just stick to these time. I don't really use another time frame. Let me see. Monique, please send me an email. I will look at that. Because currently enrollments are full. So when there's a spot available, so someone leaves, then you are the next one in line. So it might take a little bit more time. Let me see. Yes, let me go with my loss. So I took a loss this week. No, overall, I'm happy with the loss. It was a little bit lower probability. And I also explained to you why it was a little bit lower probability, I do believe. Is because overall, if we compare this to EU, the trade that I took last week, not last week, but yeah, last week. Yeah, last week. Then we can see that currently AU, the only resistance it has compared to EU is that it has this monthly value gap. Now, again, I do think that we are delivering higher, as in we are going to disrespect that monthly value gap. But that does not mean that it's not going to be any kind of resistance, right? So it can still have that little resistance, that annoying resistance that we're seeing. And that can be the same for the dollar, where the dollar, we just didn't really have the nice delivery lower on that particular day that I took the trade, which was on Tuesday, I believe, or Wednesday, one of those. And we expanded higher a little bit, and then we delivered lower. So right there on Australian dollar, US dollar, I had this daily VWAP gap right there. I was looking to potentially trade GBP, JPY, etc., but they didn't have the setup just yet. So I wanted to get involved on Australian dollar, US dollar. And right here, daily VWAP gap. Then I had the same setup on the 1 hour that I took on GU a couple of weeks ago, I believe. Then right here, this was my entry right there. I covered the breaker. And the reason I covered this breaker right there is because at that moment in time, it was already quite high, right? So for me to cover the low right there, to then, that's a 1-to-1 in the context. So in the context with that is discount to premium rate. To target that 1-to-1 for me is like, don't really like that. That is a little bit too less to, I want a little bit more RR than that. At least a 1-to-2 inside the context. That is my liking. So then I covered the breaker to sort of almost force the ID right there, which already, again, is another factor that I did not really like. Then it's a 1-to-7-7 RR right there inside the context, which ultimately I also don't really like. But if you aim for the 2 RR, it's a little bit above it. All right, perfectly fine. I'm fine with that. So in my opinion, it was valid. Overall, there were signs that I thought of. It's not really super high probability. If we compare this to the dollar as well, what happened on the dollar during that moment in time was also not really high probability. The delivery was just not really there. Eventually got taken out at that moment right there. If that makes sense. How to use the dollar with NASDAQ? The way I use the dollar with NASDAQ is just inversely. So if the NASDAQ is moving higher, then I want dollar to move lower, or vice versa. If I want to see the dollar go lower, which I would love to see, then I want to see the indices, NASDAQ, etc. go higher. That makes sense. How to play London session on US dollar pairs, since most events are at 8:30 a.m. New York session. Is an event alone in the future sufficient to anticipate volatility at London session? Yes, for sure. If you have unemployment claims, for example, at 8:30 a.m. For New York session, then you can already trade London. You can already definitely look to trade London. So, for example, on on Thursday, you have unemployment claims, or even on Friday, you have PMI at 10 a.m. Sometimes you might see that London is a little bit slower, but overall, you already get the setup in London, and then New York just expands higher, as in it just follows through on what London already created. You sound ill, or you good? All right. Thank you for acknowledging. Thank you. Yeah, I'm a little bit ill. It was mainly because of the jet lag, but other than that, I'm fine. Other than that, I'm fine. Thank you for asking. Thank you. It's very nice. Thank you, Sanket. Thank you. Appreciate it. Can you do chain link? I like. Wait, let me go over the other ones as well. Is time might be the reason for your loss? Yeah, could definitely be more. Could definitely be. What I try to do as well, to give you some insight on how I deal with losses, I try to analyze. All right, because already knowing going into the trade, I know why I might lose the trade. After the fact, if I do lose the trade, I don't try to find the absolute reason. All right, what did the algorithm do, and what did the algorithm tell me to do, and blah 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 blah. And I should have never taken this loss. No, it's still valid in my eyes. As in, mechanically wise, I don't do anything else. Mechanically, my trade plan stays the exact same. But from the experience part, I potentially can look to gain some experience here on why I might not take that trade intuition-wise the next time, if that makes sense. Let me see. Euro US dollar, we already went over, my friend. So I would highly advise to scroll back a little bit. This month has been hard for me. No worries at all. If this month has been hard for you, then that's perfect. Because you can only learn from that. You can only get experience from that. Let me look at Chainlink. And then after, let me look as well at some other pairs that I mentioned. Let me see. Chainlink. Ah, it's crypto. Okay. Crypto. All right, all right. Let me see. What are we doing on a monthly? Oof. Some nice momentum going higher. Interesting. Next potential target, this one right there. Let me see. The monthly fair value gap right there is pretty far away. So it's the same premise that monthly fair value gap, to trade into it the next month already, that's not really realistic. That's quite far away. Weekly, oh, I don't really like this formation, but I do still see this as not a real top in the market. So I definitely think we are still going higher. On the daily right here, if we already create a daily fair value gap higher, then I would say, all right, let's continue higher off of that. If we don't do that, then we might still deliver into the weekly fair value gap first. So first a little bit lower to then continue higher. So that's mainly what I would look at right there. If we can create a daily fair value gap higher though, I would be very interested in that. Daily fair value gap higher to then look to target this high and that high. That could be very nice. Any chance to go through Euro Canadian dollar and GBP Canadian dollar? They look nice for continuation to the upside. For sure, for sure. Let's look at it. Let's look at it. Oh, Euro Canadian dollar. Ah, excuse me. All right. Monthly right here. Monthly potentially creating a fair value gap, which is quite nice because that shows bullish intention, of course. Weekly. Yes, I like this a lot. Ah, my nose is stuffed. So right here, if we look at this, then I think we can all get to an agreement. And even if you only watched one of my YouTube videos on what it potentially wants to do, right? It's just this weekly fair value gap right there with the overlapping highs. If we can deliver into that, then I want to go full margin on those highs. No. I just really like this setup right here. Now you can delete one of these lines even right there and just take this one. And just use the weekly fair value gap to go into the 4 hour or into the 1 hour right there to then look for longs. So what you want to do is a 4 hour, just a fair value gap higher. Remember the rejection story that we went over, right? The liquidity story that we talked about. If we can just continue higher right there with 4 hour fair value gap higher, 1 hour fair value gaps higher, that's very nice. That's extremely nice price action. I really, really like this. And also just to give you the why on why I really like this, is because there's just really no other argument to be made to continue lower. There's no other argument. Like, what argument can we make to continue lower? On the monthly, maybe we're sweeping this high. On the weekly, maybe we're sweeping this high. All right, do we have confirmation of that on the daily? We don't have daily fair value gaps lower. Do we have 4 hour fair value gaps lower? Yes, okay, but we don't have daily, weekly, or monthly supporting the ID or anything. All right, so really only the argument to be made is that we continue higher off this weekly fair value gap. And if that doesn't happen, then we have a clear indication that we might want to continue lower, towards a lower weekly fair value gap. All right, win-win situation, because you now know if this doesn't happen, then I do this. Perfect. That's what we want to see. So, GBP Canadian dollar. Let me see. It's also very nice. Yes, also very, very nice. Now, which one do you think, and I don't want to speak in riddles or mysteries, but it might be a fun little quiz. Which one do you think I would prefer here? Because I already know, just by looking at the weekly, which one I would prefer. And the one I would prefer is the other one, Euro Canadian dollar. And the reason for that is because if we looked at Euro Canadian dollar, it had an easier path to trade into the weekly fair value gap, and it had something overlapping with it as well. So that is why it's the discount rate to trade off of on Euro Canadian dollar is a little bit more clear than on GBP Canadian dollar, because GBP Canadian dollar can deliver into the weekly fair value gap to continue higher right here with a very nice draw on liquidity. So that is still also very nice. They are pretty even in that sense. But on the daily right here, we can potentially daily fair value gap continue higher off of this, which currently it does not seem like we're doing. So we're not creating a new daily fair value gap off of this old daily fair value gap. So now my thought process might be, all right, we can come into the weekly fair value gap right there, but we can see that Euro Canadian dollar was just closer towards that weekly fair value gap. So it's a lot easier to trade that. Where this is a little bit more difficult because now you need to read the daily fair value gap, the 4 hour fair value gaps right there to see if it's telling you, all right, does it really not already want to continue higher? And does it want to come into the weekly value gap first? So that is a question that needs to come to mind, which right there, if we create daily value gaps, 4-hour value gaps higher already at the beginning of the week, then I would argue, all right, we are not coming into the weekly value gap first. Check Canadian dollar CHF. Let's see. Canadian dollar CHF. Okay, we finally took that low. Ah, yes. Thank you for mentioning this. This is very nice. Very nice. Like that a lot. Yes. Because now after monthly context is taken, you go down one time frame. You have weekly context right there. Yes, very nice. If we can continue lower off of that, if we are continuing lower, then we are just very simply said continuing lower off of that. So that is very, very nice. I like that a lot. Very nice. I think you should show you losses more because we can learn from losses too. You say everyone's take the win, so a win can be explained easy, but a valid or not valid loss can't be explained that easy. True. This was the first loss though. The reason I have not really shared my losses, and I don't want to sound cocky or arrogant or anything, is because I haven't taken a loss since I think August. But yeah, if I do take losses, then I will definitely look to share them as well. Because yeah, that is very true. You learn more from losses than you learn from winners, right? It's very true. London is the best kill zone, even because high of the day or low of the day. Yeah, I miss London, to be honest. That's really the one thing I miss. Like London session. Trading London session is so nice. It's so, for Forex, it's a lot easier. I can understand why people in this time zone, in American time zone, just like to trade indices mainly. Because, I don't know, just waking up and seeing that it's the first session that is actually happening, that's very active, which is London for Europeans, etc., is very nice. It's very nice. It's very nice. Bearish, what do you think? Yeah, Nuno Alves, for sure. I definitely GBP, JPY is very interesting here. So for me, it's a mix between two things, where we have the monthly right there creating a potential monthly value gap. So I can see the next candle potentially consolidating. Again, that's speculation, right? That's speculation. Might not happen. We have to see what price action is doing after this week. But right here, if we want to continue higher, we can look to continue higher potentially off of this daily value gap. If you don't do that, then I want to be very careful here. And like you mentioned, that is perfect then. Yes, exactly. London starts at 1 p.m. in India. It's perfect. Wow. That is a lovely time. It's a very nice time. What time frame should we take entry on? For example, you said 4-hour PDRA, entry on 5 minutes, or refer to me one of your videos. Thank you. Cosmic, what you would want to do is combine the time frames correctly. So in the videos, usually as general rule of thumb, yes, Daniel, we can see your comments. Usually as a general rule of thumb, what you would want to do is a weekly 1 hour, 1 hour entry, monthly 4 hour, daily 15 minute, 4 hour, 5 minute, 1 hour, 1 minute, 15 minute, 1 minute as well. And then from there, you can sort of play with it, as in you can combine the times correctly. If you go into the 4 hour and the 15 minute, you need less confirmation. That is why something to refer to. You only need 1 ST here, if that makes sense. But overall, if you just go through the videos that I think, what is it? USD JPY. I had a video on USD JPY. That's where I truly go into the time frames as well. Very curious to see what you think of Canadian dollars JPY's liquidity grab and rejection. Weekly looks tough, but interested in your opinion. What was your question, Daniel? Let me know. I'll go over Canadian dollar JPY. Let me know your question because I might have missed it. Ooh, okay. This is very interesting. So we swept that previous month's low right there. Weekly, it's a swing low. That's a beautiful rejection higher right there. We came into the daily value gap. Okay, that ticks all the boxes, and it ticks all the bullish boxes. The only thing I can see right here, which I would not like, is that we have been trying to go higher for a while right now, and we just failed to last time. So if we can create a daily value gap higher, then that could definitely be interesting, but I could see why this does not want to play out. And the reason for that is because it might want to refer back to seeking historic conditions right now, where we have a sweep and we just come back to the 50% level and just seek and destroy. That is the way I would view that as well. But overall, daily VWAP gap higher, very nice. It looks very nice. Let me see. Yeah, the reason why I sometimes use monthly, because I said monthly 4 hour, is monthly 4 hour means you have to have more confirmation on the 4 hour. If you use the daily, you need to have less confirmation. So it's because we use the ST concept, etc. in the mentorship. So that's when it gets a little bit more clear. But if you copy the timeframes I use in the YouTube videos, then you're set. You're perfectly set. If you just understand, the lower the time frame. So for example, a monthly PD array and you use 1 hour confirmation, you're going to need a lot more confirmation. So the lower the time frame, the more confirmation you're going to need. Relatively seen, of course. Because a 1 hour PD array and 1 minute, you don't need more confirmation. As in, it's the same as monthly and 4 hour. It's the exact same. When can I trade Asia session? I live in Canada and in the morning now I work. I mean, only futures. For the futures, that's a little bit more difficult. I would highly advise or recommend more so Forex if you're going to trade the Asia session. And for Forex, I would say, all right, if you want to trade the Asia session, try to look at Australian dollar, New Zealand dollar, JPY pairs only. Usually you have New Zealand dollar, Australian dollar news very late or just during the Asia session. So then usually if we already come into a daily VWAP gap or any VWAP gap or any PD array, then Asia creates the high or low of the day instead of London session. And that is also when you'll see London session just follow through on whatever Asia did. Hola, Pablo. Hola, hola. My friend. Do you consider candlestick formations? I'm not sure what you mean with candlestick formations. Not sure what you mean with candlestick formations. Do you use divergence? SMT divergence? Not really. Well, the way I use it, and this is what I mean as well, it's incorporated into my plan. It's incorporated into my plan, but I don't pay attention to it, is, for example, if I trade NASDAQ, ES, and YM, and I want to trade off the weekly VWAP gap, then whichever one comes into the weekly VWAP gap first is the one I'm going to be trading, which creates SMT. I just don't need to pay attention to it, if that makes sense. ST stands for sharp turn. Sometimes I use the candlestick for confirmation to enter. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, we refer to that as candle science, I believe, as in a mentorship. So yes, I would say maybe not to the same extent as you, but some of the same. I would say yes. Oh no, limitless Forex trade best traded if you want to trade. What is it? Asia session. Let me see. Australian dollar CHF for sure. Let me see. Let me see right here. What is happening? All right. So overall, again, what we're seeing is we're having that same 50-50 price action, but it's not that 50-50 anymore if we can create this daily VWAP gap higher. That daily VWAP gap higher tells me that this VWAP gap right now already does not want to hold. So right here, this daily VWAP gap higher is where I would like to get involved right there to look to continue higher towards those highs right there. So that is honestly quite nice. Thank you, Esbern. Thank you. How have you been, my friend? How have you been? Let me see. But how did you master emotions? Let's say I took a trade with all the best probability I had, and then the market does the opposite. I had to acknowledge it and make a quick exit without being panicked. Yeah, that's a difficult situation. That hurts a little bit, no? And it's mainly the expectation that you have. As in, I understand that the highest probability trade, and this is understanding it at a very basic core level, you could argue, is that when you look at a trade and you think it is definitely going to play out because it's very high probability, then you're already setting the expectation of, all right, this trade is going to play out. So that also means that you don't really, you lost track, you lost sight of understanding the high probability, which the high probability means that it's probability. It's not high binary, as in it's not binary of it's going to happen. No, there's still a 20% chance of you losing that trade, for example. So that is first of all very important, which then leads me to say, all right, if I lose this trade, then I still understand, all right, it's just what is it? It's just unfortunate, but it's that 20% that I'm going to lose. It's nothing I can do about it, that really. So I move on and focus on what I can control. And I can control finding that next high probability setup again. Because then if I do that consistently, I'm just going to be at an 80% win rate. And I have an 80% win rate. And I always feel like people, when they see that or they understand I have an 80% win rate, they think that I don't lose with an 80% win rate, because they don't really forget, or they forget, oh yeah, with an 80% win rate, you still lose 20% of the time. So it's like, okay, yeah, it makes a lot more sense, right? If that makes sense. And if you understand that, and understanding is different from believing, because a lot of people understand it, and a lot of people understand trading, and a lot of people understand that psychology is very important. A lot of people understand that you should focus on making money instead of an algorithm. And that's also where I differ from ICT, I believe, because I tend to focus more on making money, where I think, focus a lot on the algorithm side, which is completely fine. Of course, it's whatever you prefer. But a lot of people understand it, but they don't believe it. And believing comes from understanding and telling it yourself 1,000 times and doing it over and over and over and acting like that. That is where believing comes from. And once you believe it, then yes, you're on another level. Then it can only get better. Yeah, for sure, Locusin. No offense, but the 8Z answers the top 1,000 questions you can ask about the market. 100% just if you're there to watch it. 100% agree. 100% agree. For sure, for sure. What's up, Maximus? How are you doing? Let me see. My monitor, I used to... Wait, sorry, Maximus. I got distracted a little bit. My monitor, I used to have the LG, the widescreen, the ultra widescreen. I currently just have the Apple Studio display right here that I use for trading. Works quite well, actually, Apple with what is it? With MetaTrader as well nowadays. Works quite well. I had a question that if we have one of the big three on maybe Monday, Tuesday, so we ignore Monday and Tuesday, but should we trade it for the rest of the days of the week or of just for one day after? Depends. If we have, let's say, Maximus, if we don't have news on the rest of that week, then I would say trade that Wednesday. The rest of the week, stay on the sidelines. If we have on Thursday unemployment claims, then for me, it's still fine to trade that Wednesday without news. So Wednesday without news, trade it. Then Thursday, don't trade it. So it's that playing in between. It's sort of like in a game, in a video game, you have a speed boost, right? And you're almost not going to make the next speed boost from the previous speed boost. So without having that next speed boost in between that we need, that's going to push us forward, it's like if we have the next one, all right, we can still look to take it, if that makes sense. It's the best analogy I can think of. Let me see. Yes, correct. Drawdown FX. Yes. And the reason for that is because there's already a lot of content you're immediately exposed to already. So that is why we have the upfront, the initial fee. And in the longer term, because I used to do a higher monthly fee without the initial fee, but that was actually more expensive for people as well. So in the longer term, which I like to have long-term people, and the reason for that is because if you're there for 1 month, yes, it might work, but overall, I see the results after 6 months. So to allow people to be there for 6 months, this is the best option as well for to see success in a sense. Is mentorship one-to-one, one-on-one? Yes, it is to a certain degree, I would say. And what I mean by that is that you can, in a masterclass, so the masterclass only is where you have Discord support from my side, where you can ask me questions one-to-one, where we can even hop on a call as well. What's fake MSS in your vision? Can you explain Terzu? Fake MSS, I don't really use MSS, and the reason I don't get faked out by market structure shift is because I don't use it. Because I don't pay attention to it, and that's also a funny concept, right? Let me go over that, actually. It's the way we use that in the mentorship as well, which is why we don't need market structure shift. It's the same thing what I mentioned in the video, the most recent video on liquidity. I might make a new video on it, actually. Let me know if that's a great idea, actually. That could be nice. Make a new video on why market structure shift is not needed. Because the last video was pretty outdated already. It's where if the fair value gap happens, then you don't really need a market structure shift, because either when people use a market structure shift, they usually need a fair value gap, where if you just have the fair value gap, the market structure shift happens right there automatically without paying attention to it. So if I ignore this and I just pay attention to this, then the market structure shift is incorporated into my trading plan, but I just don't pay attention to it. This also allows us to now trade without a market structure shift, which is very interesting because that creates the ST concept, where sometimes I enter before a market structure shift has even been created. And that is because I don't use market structure shift. Let me see. It's confusing? Yeah, limitless. All right, that's good to know. It's good to know. Thank you, Makosa. Thank you. All right, then I'm going to end it here currently. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for being here. And I'll see everyone on Tuesday, of course. And then please feel free as well to use the link in the description, all the way at the bottom, I believe, to send in a request for a video. So something that's not clear, or you think a video can be improved as well, a video that's not super clear, then please feel free to let me know, of course. All right, perfect. Thank you, everyone. I'll see you at the next one. Have a great Sunday as well. And remember what we talked about. All right, perfect. Thank you.